Welcome back to Health Treatment Center, where we uncover the health truths that matter most to your family's safety. What I'm about to share with you might shock you, but it could be the most important information you receive this year about protecting the people you love most. Just 3 weeks ago, I received an urgent message from a mother in California whose seemingly healthy 5-year-old daughter suddenly developed a high fever and mysterious rash that doctors initially couldn't identify. What happened next revealed a disturbing trend that's quietly spreading across communities nationwide. Here at Health Treatment Center, we've been tracking emerging health patterns for over 8 years, helping more than 15,000 families navigate complex health challenges. But what we're seeing with measles cases is unlike anything we've witnessed in the past 2 decades. The numbers are rising in ways that should concern every parent, and yet most families have no idea this is happening right under their noses. Let me start with what happened to Sarah's daughter in California, because her story represents what's happening to families across the country. Sarah thought she was doing everything right. Regular pediatric visits, following all the standard health guidelines, keeping her daughter away from obviously sick children. But here's what she didn't know. Measles can spread before symptoms even appear, and it's one of the most contagious diseases known to medical science. One infected person can spread measles to up to 18 other people in a single room, and the virus can actually survive in the air for up to 2 hours after an infected person leaves the space. The measles cases we're seeing aren't just random occurrences. They're clustering in specific communities and spreading in predictable patterns that most health authorities aren't openly discussing. If you're thinking this doesn't affect you because measles was supposedly eliminated in the United States, you need to understand that elimination doesn't mean the virus disappeared. When vaccination rates drop below critical thresholds in communities, that protection crumbles rapidly. Now, before I continue, I want you to do something important. If you have children under 10 or grandchildren, comment family below right now. This information could be crucial for protecting the people in your circle, and I need to know that you're taking this seriously. In the past 18 months, we've documented measles cases in 47 states, with some regions seeing increases of over 300% compared to previous years. But these aren't just statistics. These are real families dealing with a disease that can cause serious complications, including pneumonia, brain swelling, and in rare cases, death. What's particularly troubling is that many of the recent cases are occurring in children who were too young to be vaccinated or in individuals who couldn't receive vaccines due to medical conditions. Let me share something that might surprise you about measles transmission. Unlike many childhood illnesses that require close contact, measles spreads through tiny droplets that can travel remarkable distances and survive in enclosed spaces long after an infected person has left. This means that exposure can happen in situations where families feel completely safe. Shopping centers, restaurants, airplanes, schools, and even medical facilities. The virus is so contagious that if you're not immune and you're in the same building as someone with measles, there's a 90% chance you'll become infected. Stop for a moment and think about this. How many public spaces do you and your family visit in a typical week? If this is making you reconsider your family's protection strategy, you're starting to understand why this topic is so critical right now. Now, I want to address something that causes a lot of confusion in family discussions about measles protection. There's been so much contradictory information and emotional debate that many parents feel paralyzed about making decisions. At Health Treatment Center, we believe that informed families make the best decisions for their unique circumstances. And that starts with understanding the real facts about measles, immunity, and protection options. Here's what we know for certain about measles protection. Natural immunity from actually having measles does provide strong protection, but achieving natural immunity requires surviving the disease itself, which carries significant risks including pneumonia in about 30% of cases, brain inflammation in 1 in every 1,000 cases, and death in 1 to 3 out of every 1,000 cases. Vaccination provides immunity without requiring the illness itself and has been shown to be highly effective when administered according to standard schedules. What's crucial for every family to understand is that measles protection isn't just an individual decision, it's a community decision. When vaccination rates in a community drop below about 95%, the protection for everyone begins to break down, including protection for people who cannot be vaccinated due to age, medical conditions, or other factors. If you're wondering how to assess your family's current protection status, here's what health experts recommend. First, review vaccination records for all family members and discuss with your healthcare provider whether anyone needs additional doses. Understand your community's immunity status by asking your local health department about recent measles activity and vaccination rates in your area. Third, consider your family's travel patterns, school attendance, and exposure risks when making protection decisions. But let me share something that might be even more important than vaccination status: early recognition and response planning. Many families assume that if someone gets measles, they'll recognize it immediately and know what to do. But early measles symptoms look very similar to common cold or flu symptoms: fever, cough, runny nose, and feeling generally unwell. The characteristic rash that most people associate with measles doesn't appear until 3 to 5 days after symptoms begin. And by that time, the infected person has already been contagious for up to 4 days. This timing is crucial because families often don't realize they're dealing with measles until after they've potentially exposed many other people. If someone in your family develops fever and cold-like symptoms, especially if there's been any possible measles exposure in your community, immediate medical consultation and isolation precautions can prevent further transmission while determining the actual cause of illness. Let me share what happened with Sarah's daughter in California, because the outcome demonstrates why preparation and quick response matter so much. When Sarah noticed the fever and rash, she immediately contacted her daughter's pediatrician, who knew the family's vaccination history and current health status. The doctor was able to provide immediate guidance about isolation procedures and testing while arranging for safe evaluation without exposing other patients. The quick response and proper isolation prevented what could have been extensive community exposure, and Sarah's daughter recovered completely. Sarah told me something that every parent needs to hear. She said the most stressful part wasn't the illness itself, it was feeling unprepared and not knowing what to do when symptoms first appeared. She wished she had understood measles transmission, recognized the early symptoms sooner, and had a clear response plan ready to implement. If you're thinking about your own family's preparedness, here are the key elements that every family should have in place. First, understand current immunity status for all family members. Second, know the early signs of measles and have a clear plan for immediate response if symptoms develop. Third, establish relationships with healthcare providers who understand your family's situation. Fourth, understand your community's current risk level and how to access reliable information about local measles activity. Fifth, have isolation supplies and procedures ready to implement if exposure occurs. I want to address something particularly concerning for parents of young children. Babies under 12 months old cannot receive measles vaccination and are completely dependent on community immunity for protection. If you have a baby, understanding this vulnerability is crucial. Babies can receive some temporary protection from mothers who are immune to measles. But this protection typically wanes between 6 and 12 months of age, leaving a window of vulnerability. For families with babies, protection strategies may include avoiding areas with known measles activity, limiting exposure to large crowds during higher risk periods, ensuring that family members and close contacts are up to date with their immunity, and working closely with pediatric providers to monitor for any signs of exposure or illness. Here's something else that's important to understand. Measles doesn't just affect the immediate infected person. The illness can suppress the immune system for weeks or months after recovery, making people more susceptible to other infections during the recovery period. This means that even after someone recovers from measles, continued attention to health and infection prevention remains important. If you're feeling overwhelmed by this information, you're not alone. Many families tell us that learning about measles risks initially feels daunting, but that taking action to assess and improve their family's preparedness ultimately reduces anxiety and increases confidence. The key is to approach this systematically, focusing on one element at a time. Start with assessing your family's current immunity status. Contact your healthcare providers to review vaccination records and discuss whether anyone needs additional protection. Many families discover that their records are incomplete or that recommendations have changed since their last review. Next, educate yourself about measles symptoms, transmission, and response procedures. Understanding what to look for and what to do if exposure occurs eliminates much of the fear and confusion that comes with unexpected illness. Here's what I want every parent watching this to understand about protecting your family from measles in the current environment. The threat is real and increasing, but families who understand the risks and prepare appropriately can maintain excellent protection for their children and loved ones. The key is to move beyond fear and confusion toward informed preparation and confident action. Protection planning isn't something you do once and forget about. Risks change as children grow, as communities change, as families travel, and as disease patterns evolve. Most health experts recommend annual reviews as part of routine healthcare planning, with additional assessment whenever significant changes occur. As we wrap up this discussion, I want to leave you with the most important message. Measles is indeed making a comeback in ways that should concern every family, but informed, prepared families can maintain excellent protection for their children and loved ones. Family protection is both an individual responsibility and a community effort. Your family's protection decisions affect not just your own family, but also the broader community, especially those who cannot protect themselves due to age, medical conditions, or other factors. Before you go, I want you to take one specific action. In the next week, schedule time to review your family's measles immunity status with your healthcare provider. Don't put this off, and don't wait until measles cases appear in your community to address this. Take action now while you have time to make thoughtful decisions. And here's my question for you. What's been your biggest concern about measles protection for your family? Have you been worried about the increasing cases? Confused about conflicting information? Share your thoughts in the comments below, because your questions help me understand what information the Health Treatment Center community needs most. If this information has been helpful for your family's protection planning, please hit that like button to help us reach more families who need this information. And don't forget to subscribe to Health Treatment Center with notifications turned on, because we're committed to keeping you informed about emerging health threats and protection strategies that matter most for your family's safety. Remember, at Health Treatment Center, we believe that informed families are protected families. Thank you for taking the time to understand this important health issue. I'll see you in the next video, where we'll be discussing more strategies for keeping your family healthy and safe.